Uh, See, I think there are two times when a craft dies, maybe what I feel. Once, or any sort of art form actually. One might be when it is not practiced at all, and the second time is when it is not propagated. I mean, nobody uses it, or that's not in somebody's possession to share or something like that. So that is sort of the ultimate death of craft when there might be a lot of things which might have been made in the past centuries which we treat as craft, but we might not even know about them, and that sort of
Right.
To this, to Sarvesh, I'll add up, like, also craft, the ultimate death of craft, of you can say, starts with when the future, the assets, the persons who make the craft, their future, like the children, and they don't find value in that craft. They don't find their identity in that craft. And when you don't, like it's your own child, and if you don't find it as your own child, or obviously it will starts to decay and starts to, lose everything.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, this was also discussed even in the last focus group. So there was a example, I think Samar, who is also here, who talked about, or we talked about in the sense of mummies, like pyramids and mummies. So we don't even know like what was the reason of that craft dying in essence. Like, was it like not relevant anymore? Was it because that whole civilization went away? Okay, so and the interpretation of the craft's death was considered even for like we had these discussions from these perspectives of past. Plus, I think just like Nitin said, no, like if you considered as a practitioner not attached to or not associated with the craft anymore, it is the death of a craft. So similarly, like that's why we kept this whole exercise in the format of private and public. So if you think that it's a private in a private format, the craft is not relevant to you anymore, or it has been died to you, just like a feeling which you had a very personal relationship or intimate relationship with, but it has gone away now. So it is dead for you in the sense that it's a loss for you, but it still exists for others. So that's why we had this separation of private and public loss crafts.
But then I would like to ask a question, like, I mean, then where do you, I mean, these are two words when you talk about crafts and art. So where do you sort of draw a line, or do you even draw a line there?
So yeah, Praveen, can I add to that? I
Yeah,
don't.
yeah, please, please.
I can. Yeah. So I think that is like the second part that you said, that the drawing lines kind of I come from a background where when you enter the product design school, you're shown a slide where it says that design is not equal to art, and that kind of I wanted to question that from a long time, and that I think is still the intent of this discussion, that that do we need to draw lines between these definitions, because our experiences with certain craft practices, that they have a design process associated with them, so you cannot classify them as crafts which are non-design or
Correct.
non-designerly. I would, if designerly is you know yeah. So, and so that kind of, yeah, so if we are not defining a certain way, then that works for us, to keep it a little ambiguous. Because if you look at art forms like miniature painting of the particular region that I am from, Rajasthan, then there are different schools of miniature painting as you move across the districts that used to be there, the Jodhpur school, the Bikaner school. So and the kind of exploitation that we have seen with the terming these art forms as crafts, or vice versa, then that kind of, the definition is exploited till to a lot of extent. So I think if we are a definitional, if we keep away from a little definition, then it would be better.
And also, I mean, okay, first, I would say like let's wrap it up the activity so that we could move on. And because there is another activity, I think that will be more interesting for this part. And about the part which Dhruv was saying, we also had a discussion, a small discussion yesterday about this thing about defining craft. That it's just a sort of, I say that I made this allegation that a lot of crafts in our country is also sort of associated with being defined by government of India and the NGO systems. So it's like if the government, or maybe in the British era, something has been defined as a craft in the list of which government supports, or something like that, then it's considered craft because it is a lot associated with NGOs and bodies which are working to revive it or support it, and few things which are not even considered as a craft in the government's rules is not considered craft anymore, right? Like that's why I showed that bira thing. It is called crafted beer, right? But what about the illegal anguri or things like that? It is a risk to health. So it's like people have. I mean, the government has not like prohibited it, but is it again a craft? It's a craft, but it is illegal in our domain. So that's why, like, when we are defining craft and art, we are not referring directly to some definitions made already, or which is introduced already to us. So that's why we wanted to keep it open, in the sense that what you consider craft in your life.
Thing, like,
Okay.
if a father will die, I don't know if this is in all Hindu communities, but at least in my house it was that the girl should be married within 6 months, and if it's a boy, they have to wait 1 year before he can get married. I mean, of course, there's a practical reasons for this kind of a thing also. Maybe in those days when you didn't want the girl to be hanging around and becoming a financial burden to the family, but like those kind of aspects, like, okay, the craftsperson must mourn it for so many days and then continue to other work, or like, can it be like how mainstream contracts are, like after you quit an office, then they say for 3 years you can't work with this particular crafts artist, or
Yeah.
I don't know, Dhruv, you may have experienced that when you quit a design studio, which may have where, like, this is very common for design studios to do, that
Yeah,
you can't work with this XYZ vendor.
I
So
have
is that also part of the ritual, or is that too much?
I have a confession to make. I have never worked at a design studio.
Oh, you haven't? Okay. Some of your friends would have.
Yeah. So yeah, but yeah, that sort of contracts are there where you cannot practice a particular skill or work with a. I know people in the city who have signed such contracts where you cannot work in a certain craft after you quit a design studio that works in that.
Hmm.
And,
And I've also observed nowadays when people pass away, you see GoFundMe or like Milap links for fundraising for
yeah.
the family of the deceased, or like some memorial. So what are those modalities, if
Yeah.
because those are almost actual modalities in craft, where you're saying, oh, let's put up a fund to help this artist or this craft family, or something like that. Is that too real?
Thinking, yeah, on the same terms where we are thinking of benefiting the stakeholders which were once practicing. So on the same terms, we also thought that, let's say, the stakeholders are getting a better value proposition. So the funeral can be about, like a celebration to moving on to a better life and leaving the craft practice. It's really upon the stakeholders now to take the death in a certain way or not. I think, yeah, so that's very interesting. And so it can be something very, like in the workshop, Praveen, we remember that someone said that, why do we even need to have a ceremony or a effort of sorts when a craft dies? It is something that is happening with time, and like a very nihilistic, sense of saying that, okay, if something is happening, you should just let it be, because that is it, what it is doomed to, happen to it. So how does that play into, designing a funeral? How do you disengage effectively?
Hi, Praveen. Thanks for inviting. So, yeah, I mean, so this actually came when I was watching my nephew play. So, So like what happened is that right now, because he's stuck in at home also, so like he gets hardly time to go out and do stuff. So he ended up being in like being playing with more like digital screens and things. So, and even if I like ask him to come and join me for some crafting, he lose interest in doing something with the paper or like some other material. So I mean so I can slowly see that there is a sort of like you are losing out on certain things. So if you look at this coconut uh, leaf craft, it is something that I used to work with my grandparents. Like we used to sit together and talk about stories, uh, and he used to build a lot of toys out of leaves and found objects, and there is a lot of learning which happens in this kind of interaction also. And sometimes I just feel that, oh, maybe we are losing out on that kind of knowledge, and that's what I was trying to sort of portray here.
Hmm.
And this is not like a craft. You can't say that it is a craft of a community. But if you travel to like a rural household in Kerala, and 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 like you will see that this sort of toy is being made in every house. So it's a knowledge that everybody has. Or if you say like Onam, uh, you can see that in Onam there is this thing of using flowers. You create that rangoli out of flowers, right?
Right.
And it's not just about making that thing, but you are also becoming like more observant of flowers and colors and materials and forms. So when you replace that, when you just buy like flowers from market or like replace it with some digital things, it's losing out a certain essence, which is like I don't know how to sort of recreate it or like how to preserve it. So those kind of things.
Right.
No, I actually like this. I mean, see, when like I really love the way you have planned the funeral, because it gives us a very what do you say, a vision which is very clear for present uh, cultures also of craft. Because this is, I think this is something which even I discuss a lot of time with people, that okay, there are few even with my father, because he reads a lot and he writes a lot, but he all of his work at my house is kept in these stacks of paper, and I keep telling him that okay, just allow me and I will digitize all the things, because I think a lot of knowledge he himself discovered or he himself understood is in those papers. And this
Yeah.
is another way, like I would also like to preserve work of his, but
Yeah.
he's not accepting that format is another thing. But yeah, this
Yeah.
is somewhat what we are looking for, the funeral.
Yeah, and also because this craft is like you can document the process, but the actual object just gets destroyed, right? So you have it's like there is a lot of reworking. Like you have to when you have to play again, you have to make the toy again, and so you are going through the process again. And so you can document the process, but the actual object on that particular material is difficult to document, or like I don't know how to like sort of preserve it in its form.
How even do you like define it from which? Because the material is not something that is defining, or is it like the technique? So probably the if the knowledge of making, somehow lives on in some format, and
Yeah, and mostly like at least in the current form, it lives on in the minds of your grandparents or the kids that playing it, but it's not formally documented. Or like I don't know, maybe there are people who are documenting this thing, but like it's just that the format of that craft itself is like that, right? Like it's not documented anywhere, but it's something which just lives on uh,
very.
among your grandparents
So
and
what I
kids.
thought of right now is like very interestingly this idea, like this whole discussion that we had right now, this also brings implication on the deaths that we have, the usual deaths that we humans have. That, you know, is there a, like, we make material wills, no? We make, you know, assign our possessions before leaving to people in our lives, like sons, daughters, friends,
Yeah.
that have worked for you, worked with you. So, you know, so you choose your people and you give them your wealth. So, like, is there a need for, you know, like, can we have a ritual, like a ritual of, you know, like a will making ritual where these stories sort of, you know, live on in every family, like it's
Yeah.
you can, you know, cast this question on death also, that
Okay.
death can be more meaningful in terms of
Hmm.
themselves. Yeah.
Yeah. That's right.
Okay, anybody else
And,
would like to?
no,
Yeah, Pinal.
yeah, when I just saw Anisha's board, no, it also threw up some memories for me also. And also another aspect of this was, no, this was also integrated into a lot of other things. No? So especially the, no, if you look at the picture here, where the what do you call? We call it mulching, but then it's basically the baby coconut. So, you know, if this the, I think the left, you know, the leftmost, the uppermost part of, yeah. So this was also, if you know, when if people were using, yeah, this one, uh,
Yeah.
if you know, during a card game, you know, the person who loses the game, you know, he has to wear it in his, you know, ears, and then he plays along
Yeah.
with, you know, wearing it, and then if he loses the game, then he gets more. So it's, you know, and these are practice which, you know, doesn't exist anymore. So it's interesting to, you know, see all this. So these are also, you know, narratives which have been again, you know, kind of
So
died.
behaviors lose हो रहे हैं
Yeah,
साथ में ऐसा, the
yeah,
object.
yeah. ऑब्जेक्ट के साथ वो भी, you know, lose हो रहा है. So now it is, you know, uh, these are only stories now. So
Yeah, very interesting connotation.
This
On that, yeah, you Nitin, please.
yeah, so thanks. To this I also wanted to add, like, when she was talking, when talking about, like, when you want preserve a craft, like, there's something that has been lost and you preserve it, and there's this artifact that has this craft in it. So now the question comes, like, what actually was the craft? Was it the product itself, or was that the making of a product? Like the paintings that we have from Van Gogh and all the things, we see a painting, but you can never recreate it because you don't know what are the strokes of it. So and what every stroke had a meaning to it. So is the craft what we see as a product and the final terms, or is the craft is the process that we are thinking?
Yeah, we have another question. No, it's not a question. It's just a statement from Siddharth. So I'll just read out. If you can choose to speak this out, also Siddharth, like, we would love to hear you. Uh, if that is not happening, then I'll just read it out. Should we treat crafts differently when they are used as a means to earn livelihood? Example: whole community involved and dependent on a specific weaving business. All right. So something on the lines that Praveen was talking, versus it being used to make a statement. Example: Van Gogh making a painting. So I think, yeah, that's rightly put, that Van Gogh also wanted to earn livelihood. However, that famously did not happen during his lifetime. And yeah, so interesting thing. So I think we can wrap it up, Praveen, a little bit now.
If
I think we're done.
somebody has any question, then we can stay for 10 more minutes, or else we can.
Yeah. If you have any questions or inputs, you would like to share something, then we can hang around for a little bit more. If you would like to speak out, yeah.
there are no,
So
you know, not questions per se, but just one example, you know, which, you know, recently, when we spoke to a weaver in Banaras, and you know, Banaras has now got this geographical indication tag. You know, Banarasi. There's a lot of, you know, there's a, you know, onslaught of, you know, government filing for GIs for crafts in India, and one of the things which he said was very interesting. So we said, when we are giving, when you are saying that, you know, when you give GI for anything, so any whether it be an agriculture good or, you know, craft, anything, so you're basically, you know, saying that, you know, you define it, you know, so these are the parameters, and, you know, anything apart from, these are the characteristics which represents this craft, and anything apart from that would not be considered as Banarsi sari, say. So that is well intentioned by probably government, but then his point was not, craft is ever evolving. So now what they have done is basically they have who have decided what is a Banarsi sari, and they have kind of arrested it in time. So you have not regenerative process ko aapne khatam kar diya. So that was an interesting viewpoint coming from a weaver itself.
Very interestingly, Binal, like I remember this learning at IICD only, that this has happened with gods a lot, like where institutions like the temples would go on to say that this particular god is dedicated to this caste, and hence we see like in Rajasthan specifically, you see a lot of castes which were not allowed, classes which were not allowed inside certain temples, or not allowed a certain devotion to a deity. A deity was kept away from them, so they interpreted Vishnu in their own way, called Ramdev, local thing, and then they used to like take ownership of the craft, and the craft became like it became like a performance art. But then it was sort of also, I think there was a little rebellion in the sense that we make our own god in that version. That is going to happen a lot, where if a weaver well versed in the idea of Banarsi making, or zari, I don't know what particularly the GI states, is new information for me. And if a weaver tries to move away, and so he might choose to call it his like Dhruv's Banarsi weaving. It's not the Banarsi anymore, it's my Banarsi. So I think like GI also I think
Okay, Anushka would like to share a point, I guess.
Hi. Yes, I was just like, all of this really reminded me of this show on Amazon, which is called Bandish Bandits, and it's about it's sort of like the contrast between how traditional classical Indian music is practiced and taught versus how pop music happens now. So I mean, the sort of way that they do traditional music is maybe the reason why it's dying, or why it's not accessible to a lot of people. Yeah.
Okay, can I ask you about your vision also, because I saw your board and I was really I wanted to like get more of it. Like how do you vision the future? Because I really like this part where it says "Wow Wow" would be declared as a slogan of community, which is now dead. So
yeah. I mean, Kavi Sammelans, like I've recently gotten to see them a lot, like on YouTube and stuff. And what I really liked about them is the part that like these people, these kavis could sort of say sarcastic stuff, like about the people in power, and it would be taken in a humorous way, and nobody would put them in jails, or stuff that happens now. And it was really like a way for everybody to gather and talk about things which doesn't really happen now. It just lead to us thinking about how we feel.
True. So also how dissent is changing in a way.
Yeah, like protests are now organized on Instagram instead of
But yeah, this also proposes a question. When it was so much ingrained in the fabric, like my dad is from a place called Mainpuri, and Mainpuri in UP, a lot of Kavi Sammelans, and they called it Nautanki also, at times, theater of sorts, street theater. And there used to be a thing called Numaish lagti thi wahan pe, pura ek.
Yes. I'm also from UP actually, so.
Oh, nice, nice. So I haven't been there. My sister has been there with my father. They went on a trip to reminisce where he came from. I couldn't go to Manpuri, and but then very interesting stories he tells us, and then he used to tell us that earlier politicians, if it like the local politicians, before a Kavi Sammelan would happen, they would pass a chit to the Kavi that please hamara mazak udana, because it became like a honor for them at that time, that if comedian is, making, if the entire concept of roasting, sort of in an
Yes.
Indian.
Yeah.
Very interesting, very